the widening geopolitical lens then is one of the penultimate questions for Philip. Is you've mentioned BRICS. When people were studying BRICS probably 10, 20 years ago, they would say that BRICS was just this random conglomeration of nations thrown together that weren't quite part of the Western international system. Is it a pointless term, or has it become something substantial? And what does the future look like?
So I've been kind of doing BRICS commentary since the war in Ukraine, especially since the Russian-Chinese economic conglomeration, call it what you will. And I've always been of the same attitude. Whether BRICS becomes something, something resembling the G7 or something like that, it doesn't really matter that much. It's the spirit of the idea that matters. It's the spirit of the spirit of the idea is quite simply that the world has been effectively on the Western development model since, go back as far as you want, definitely since the 19th century, since what the Chinese would have called the century of humiliation. But even before that, the main drivers of global development, economic and political development, were Western in the ages of conquest, the age of sail, all that kind of thing. Some of it was trade, some of it was invasion, some of it was taking over land masses that were sparsely populated or not populated at all, and it was all a Western phenomenon in a sense. And I think that is coming to an end. That doesn't mean that the West doesn't have a role to play in the world. It does. It absolutely does. It's not going away. And the ideas that the West has spread are going to have a permanent influence on the world. You can't understand contemporary China, for example, without Marxism. Marxism, I think, is losing its hold on China, and I don't think it's a communist country anymore. But you can't understand modern China without understanding the influence of those ideas. You see what I mean? So and as with Russia, you can't understand the development of modern Russia without understanding the Marxist communist period, even if they're trying to get away from that. So the issue with the BRICS isn't so much, to my mind, whether it'll become a G7 rival or anything like that. For the record, I think there is a pretty good chance it will become that, if they can continue to develop along the lines they are, creating alternative international systems like the BRICS Bank and so on. I think there's every reason it could become that. But that actually matters less than the spirit of the whole thing. And the spirit of the whole thing is basically saying, okay, the world's been developing along Western lines, which have increasingly become liberal lines as the West has liberalized. And we don't want that anymore. We want some sort of a non-Western path. Doesn't mean that there has to be a Cold War or anything like that. It's just like we're going to have our own, organization here, or we're going to have our own ideas about how we're going to develop. And we'll see where there's confluence of interests and so on. But ultimately, when it comes to liberalism, because the Western countries have become so liberal in their late phase, the BRICS is effectively an anti-liberal organization. That's what it is. It's not set up to be that. It's not like they got together, the BRICS guys got together and said, don't you just hate liberalism? Let's create an anti-liberal bloc. But in effect, look at the countries in that bloc, and they're not liberal countries for the most part. Maybe the most liberal are South Africa and Brazil. Of course, it's been expanded now, so it's not even BRICS anymore, and you have Middle Eastern powers and so on. And, if you assigned population weights to the BRICS members, and then you estimated how much of their population were liberal, truly liberal, like we're living in Western liberal societies, it's probably 1%, right? So you've got a huge population block there that are not living liberal lives and do not believe in liberal principles, and their leadership are not liberals for the most part. Now, you can make exceptional cases. Maybe Lula in Brazil is a liberal. That's an open debate. But for the most part, those blocks are being led, or not even blocks, those formations are being led by non-liberal countries like China mainly, but Russia as well. India, not a liberal country at all, democratic but not liberal. So I think that's the way to read that. And it's kind of driven me crazy when I've been commenting about it, that people are like, no, BRICS will never create an investment bank. It's like, it doesn't matter if it creates an it has an investment bank, but it'll never succeed. It'll never compete with the World Bank. I don't care. Like, what? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's an interesting thing. It's worth tracking. It's worth considering. But the overall shift is what's actually interesting. Like, people need to start thinking a lot bigger picture if they want to grasp what's going on.